Let's look at some of the characteristics of accommodations and adaptations. First, let's look at size. Adapting the size of whatever the student is learning may be an appropriate accommodation for some students. For example, cut down the number of words on a spelling list, or do half a sheet of math problems. Some individuals are assisted by adjusting the time allotted for learning, task completion, or testing. Others may need assistance in planning time for longer assignments. Level of support may be increased or decreased for students. An especially helpful support may be peer support. The peer learns by having to assist another student, and friendships may be formed. Further, research suggests peer support is a strategy that garners particularly good outcomes. Of course, adult support may be carefully structured too. Just be careful that a student does not become dependent on one person. Let's look at input. Looking at how information is given or looking at input can be helpful. For example, we know of many of our students on the autism spectrum who are visual learners. Make sure visual information is given as something that can be the difference between a learned skill and a skill with which the student continues to struggle. Other students may need kinesthetic or increased auditory input. One of our resource specialists remembers a youngster who hated reading science and social studies texts. His behavior would escalate, and he ended up missing out on instruction altogether. He finally said, "I don't know why I have to read this. I can learn this stuff on the Discovery Channel." Well, it turned out to be an easy accommodation to find videos about the rainforest or Civil War and show these. He needed input more in tune with his learning style. It is absolutely important to match the skill level needed for a task completion to the skill level of the individual. We must have a clear idea of skill strengths and deficits to successfully accommodate our students. Consideration of multiple ways to demonstrate knowledge of information means choosing an output that may be different than what is typically expected. Many students with autism have been observed to avoid handwriting activities. Why not let them use a keyboard, draw a picture, or orally give information? It is important to consider how a particular student will participate in class activities. We know of a student who used a rather sophisticated augmentative and alternative communication device. Rather than just indicating a need for food, drink, and bathroom, our student used her device to lead cheers out on the playground with her little girlfriends. She was participating in a meaningful way. Alternate expectations may be necessary for some students. An example might be a student who is participating in a study about the phases of the moon. He learns alongside his classmates, but is only asked to indicate a full moon and no moon, while his classmates have to show every phase of the moon. In Missouri, every child is required to have access to the regular education curriculum. However, there may be a very small number of students for whom a substitute curriculum is important. These typically involve very functional tasks that will be required for supported employment and semi-independent living.